So now we're building up to slightly more complicated trig graphs. We need to consider this 2, which is going to change the period, this 1/2, which is the amplitude, and then this 2, which is the vertical shift. So in here it's saying y is equal to the original cosine plus a 2. So the y's are being shifted up by 2. So we've got first of all the period. So the original period for cosine, if it just said cosine of x, is 2 pi. And whatever number is in here, you then divide by that, and it tells you what the period of cosine of 2x is. Like I said, the number sitting out in front is the amplitude. If it happens to be negative, then take the absolute value, because amplitude is telling you how tall the function is, so we don't use the negative in case there was one. And then the vertical shift is the 2 that's sitting out in front. And sometimes that 2 will be over here, but if it's saying 2 plus or plus 2, that's the vertical shift. So this information, the period, is about the x's, or the x-axis, and then amplitude tells you how tall it is, and vertical shift is also y information. So on the x-axis, we'll just go from 0 to pi. And then for the y-axis, well, the amplitude means that the y values are going to be between negative 1/2 and positive 1/2, instead of the usual negative 1 and positive 1 that cosine ranges between. Then vertical shift means add 2 to that. So we now need to add 2 to these to shift it up by 2. So over here would be 2.5, or I could use a decimal, 2.5, and over here would be 2 minus 1/2 is 1.5. So it's going to range between 1.5 and 2.5. And then for these graphs, you can say it's going to range between those two y values and these two x values. And then it makes it easier if you cut the box in half this way, which would be at pi over 2. And cut the box in half this way, in which case we need to know what's in the middle of a 2.5 and a 1.5. So you can just average those. So that's going to be 4 divided by 2, so it's a 2. And of course, if you can just look at a 1.5 and 2.5 and say, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a 2 in the middle, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can always just find the average. So now we just need to draw cosine in here, and it's positive cosine, which cosine starts at the top. By the time it's in the middle of the graph, it's at the bottom, and then it goes back up. So it's going to be like this. And then of course I'd like to graph it and double check. So 2 plus 1/2 cosine of 2x was the original problem. And then I'm going to change the window to be this red box right here, so that when I take a look at the graph, it's going to look exactly like that one cycle of cosine. So for the x's, have it go from 0 to pi, and for the y values, from 1.5 to 2.5. and then we should see one cycle of cosine. Exactly.